Poor Brock Bowers. I know he hates this. I'm just gonna tell you right now. He's gonna have to suffer through a whole day of media days, which is a lot. Having suffered through like 24 of them than myself, I can assure you that it's quite a spectacle. But Brock Bowers, Kamari Lassiter, and Cedric Van Pran are going to all be accompanying Kirby Smart in Nashville next Tuesday. We'll be there to give you all the insights you could possibly need for everybody watching. Make sure you're signing up for our newsletter. But this is, it'll be good to finally get going again. The Fourth of July is always an important kickoff moment, but I can report with certainty that Brock Bowers absolutely hates the attention. I know that he probably, if he could not do this, he would. But I have to say, we've entered a new world here where it does matter for players like Bowers who have agreements with, whoever they're got agreements with in the NIL world, to raise their priority or raise their profile as much as possible. And there's no raising it more in our sport than going to media days, and you're going a whole day of talking about your team, yourself. Sometimes there's some really whack job things that come up, but it'll be really good for Brock to, in terms of his name. Same thing for Kamari, I think in particular. Cedric Van Pan was in Atlanta a year ago. I just want to say real quick to the SEC, I know this has always been the plan, is to move media days around, and I'm almost certain next year will be, I guess, in Houston or Dallas. Leave it in Atlanta. I mean, it's just the event's just so much better in Atlanta for a lot of different reasons. We already know now that there's going to be parking issues and traffic issues around in Nashville. Just leave it in Atlanta. It's too big for Birmingham, but I know I don't matter, and that's fine as it relates to this issue at least. So it will be fun to get back to all this, but there's going to be a lot of off the field questions for Georgia, for Kirby and them to discuss, because they've gone nearly 6 months with really not talking about that a lot, which is their prerogative. But let me just say this: make sure, speaking of Brock Bowers, that you're picking up our 2023 preview edition. This has got a whole article on Brock in it, and how he dealt with his recruiting, what Nick Saban had to say about him. I mean, Brock Bowers could never really have a traditional recruiting season. Look at this picture that I think Matt DeBerry took. That's a badass image right there of those guys. But it's about Brock. You're not going to get it anywhere else. You get Double Dogs. You're going to get our 2023 preview included. You can only get it down below, the link down below. And we're not going to have this offer for much longer. Our friends at Red Zone are powering this. You can also pick it up in store at Red Zone. What I was going to say is, I'm old enough to remember Phil Fulmer not coming. These are not the same thing, but Phil Fulmer did not come to media days one year because he had a subpoena against him, and eventually he did get the subpoena served. I believe it was a subpoena. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not like that. But I'm curious to see what Georgia's strategy is in terms of dealing with the questions from off the field, because it's going to be a lot. And I don't think Kirby's really talked about it a ton outside of the 10. He spent about 15 minutes, I'd say, on it coming into spring practice, and then he did an interview with Mark Schlabach either just before that or just after that. I can't remember, but that's really all he's talked about. And in that time since, obviously, you had two people die, which is tragic, no question. Thankfully, it wasn't 4 or 5, but there's been a lot that's come to light in that time, and that's what Media Days is going to become for Georgia. It's going to be about, the driving. It's going to become about everything but football. And, I don't think Georgia's done a good job with the messaging of this. I've made that clear on Dawg Post. But we'll see how they handle it moving forward. It may be that they kind of understand now that they've let this go on too long. But they know a lot more about this than I do, for sure. But it does look like they've let it linger too long. With that said, too, there's going to be a lot. There's going to be two other major topics that's going to surround Georgia. The number one thing is going to be the off the field stuff, the speeding, the tragedy in January. Those are going to. I mean, the question will be: is your program out of control? Kirby Smart better have an answer for that. I mean, he better have some sort of thing that is not people. I mean, I don't know if Georgia's program's out of control, and I have to tell you right now, I don't know how anybody can definitively say that it is or is not. So if that bothers you, I don't know. Maybe this isn't the right channel for you, but I don't know what's going on there, and I don't know what's going on in Columbia or both Columbias or whatever. I don't know how anybody can definitively say, "Oh yeah, it's all good." I mean, it doesn't look all good to me. Looks like we've got to have some answers at some point here, or at least some explanation of things. But the other thing I think that's going to have, because I think if you just ignore it, it gets worse. It's not going to go away. This is not ending. People are going to continue to report. But I think the other thing, too, will be the natural questions, which we should be talking about, are on the field, which is who is the starting quarterback, which won't be answered, which is fine, but it's Carson Beck probably. And then B, and most importantly, as it relates to on the field, can Georgia go back to back to back? I mean, can they do this 3 times in a row? They can. Yeah, they can. Hey, make sure you're taking advantage of our Doordash offer. You see the screen behind me. The code is Dawg Post Summer. Dawg Post Summer, all one word. Take advantage of that now. 50% off a $20 order. But let's say you haven't even ordered it. I mean, you've already gotten your Dawg Post Summer in, or Dawg Post earlier in this year with Doordash. Take advantage of it now. Still, go just order it. It's easy. It's so easy to order with the app. I can assure you of that. And there's a lot of different options. Can Georgia go? Can Georgia three-peat, for apologies to Phil Jackson? Yes, they can. It's all there. It's all there. I mean, I think Reese Davis is an acute. He understands football just like everybody. I mean, just like he should, considering the position that he's in. But Georgia's going to come into this thing as the number one team in the country. This is going to be the first time in 7 years that someone other than Alabama, it's going to be the first time since 15 that someone other than Alabama is going to be voted to win the SEC. And that takes some getting used to. I will vote Georgia number one if I bother to vote. Half the time I don't vote, because let me just explain something to you about media days. I mean this with all due respect, and the SEC knows this. They will let anybody in the media days. They'll let anybody in the media days. The folks that do radio that are local, and they will let any .net come into this thing. If you have a Twitter handle, they'll let anybody in the media days, and it skews the voting. It makes it ridiculous, frankly. Now, the bulk of that time, perhaps Alabama should have been voted to win the conference. That's not my point. My point is, we got these idiots voting Vanderbilt to win the SEC East and stuff like that. So you get, you got a fair amount of morons that are there. Just saying what it is. And, as a moron, I can identify these folks quite quickly, frankly, and want to stay away from them. But media days, it's kind of hard to take it seriously to some degree. But Alabama this is going to be the first season. Now, listen, if Alabama's picked number one, I would need to know why, and I would want to know why that they'd be, considered a favorite, and that's what this is, over Georgia. I mean, right now, I can't explain that. Now, I will say this too, that, so often those of us who do what I do live we're not forward thinking. We're reactionary to what just happened. And so it may be that Alabama would be the team that Alabama is the team to beat, and we don't know it. But I can't justify that right now because the things Alabama lost, coordinators, quarterback, Georgia lost those too, and Georgia was a markedly better program, or was markedly better team a season ago. So it'll be Brock and Kamari and Cedric Van Pran. I think for Cedric Van Pran, this guy is probably the least heralded, because no one talks about the center, least heralded, most important player in the program. I think it's good for him to go.